Okay, like this game, like look, okay, ready? I kill Numel, and it's not even going to matter. Because look, Shelter comes out, yeah, look, Earthquake does what, 44? Yeah, Shell Smash, every single time. This game is so stupid. You just Shell Smash to win with Shelter. Like, I actually can't even do— Oh my god! Hey guys, welcome to my channel, LemonLC. So the LC in my name stands for LittleCup, my favorite competitive format. I'd say that LittleCup is one of the most unique formats in all of competitive Pokemon, but right now it's got a bit of a problem. Let me explain. So in LittleCup you can only use baby or unevolved Pokemon. So you can't just run around with Tyranitar or Charizard, you have to use pathetic babies. You also can't use legendaries like Arceus or Rayquaza, duh. I mean, I know they don't technically evolve, so they're technically unevolved, but shut up. So this format is a bit weird, because it's played with all the Pokemon at level 5 instead of the usual 100 like in OU. So being at level 5 makes all sorts of damage calculations weird and wacky, like how Corphish's 4 times effective Aqua Jet can end up doing 5%. Check out the video in the description by Freezai for more details, I don't really want to explain it all here. But for a quick explanation, basically everything rounds down, and when the numbers are so much smaller, the act of rounding makes a much larger difference in total damage. It means that there can be a lot of diversity on damage rolls, but it's just one of the quirks of the tier. However, that's not the problem with LittleCup. LittleCup's problem, and what makes it so unique and lovable by me and many others, is the pace of the tier. The problem falls into two main categories. Number 1, the base power of moves. In higher tiers, you see monstrous moves like Gigaton Hammer with 160 base power, or Wave Crash with 120, Overheat with 130, you see those quite commonly. In fact, almost every good mon in OU has at least one or two crazy strong moves at their disposal. This works great because the mons are balanced to level 100 with high base stat total or BST mons. I mean, yeah, like Wave Crash having 120 base power is crazy, but it's being used against mons with base 152 defense. I'm looking at you, Toxapex. So it's balanced. Sure, Blood Moon has 140 base power, but Wo-Chen's 135 base special defenses can handle it well enough. The problems start once you give these powerful moves to a tier where base 50 defense is pretty typical to see. And before any of you start to scream about a Violite, even with a Violite, base maybe 75 defenses still aren't built for these moves. And although LittleCup mons certainly don't get quite as many powerful moves, even base 100 moves like Stone Edge or Earthquake that a lot of the tier get are powerful enough to smoke through unresisted opponents in just a few hits if you have a halfway decent attacking stat. On a typical LittleCup team that I'd make, with the exception of utility moves like maybe Nuzzle or priority moves like Fake Out, the lowest base power move that I'm running is usually 80 or 90 on an entire team, with the highest usually being 130. This insane power makes it hard to play defensively, especially when most of the good mons don't get 1 or 2 base 90 plus moves, they get 4 or 5 of them. This insane power is what makes LittleCup LittleCup, and combined with the crazy rounding system and damage rolls, this tier is super fast paced. I'm talking 20 turn games on average, give or take maybe 10 turns. This is definitely sort of a problem with the tier, but I personally like it. I despise playing against stall, and I have never once played against a competent stall team in all my many hours playing LittleCup. This power is why people play LittleCup, and it's amazing. Now this only becomes a bit of a problem when combined with the second part, which is setup moves. I don't think it's a hot take to say that setup moves are insane, and a great part of the game. They can make otherwise bad mons good and provide ways to end games quicker, but I do feel as though in LittleCup they are starting to become a bit insane. Let me explain. I've already gone over how it's not uncommon for most mons to die in 2 or 3 hits, maybe more like 4 if it's a defensive mon like Foongus and Marini, but setup moves in LittleCup move these to 1 or 2 hit KOs. You might think, oh, it's not a problem, that happens in OU as well, just look at Iron Valiant. But the difference for me is that in OU there's a lot more counterplay. For one, there's a lot more good priority. Look at Conkeldurr and Breloom Mach Punch, Weavile and Mamoswine Ice Shard, Kingambit Sucker Punch, Azumarill, Aqua Jet, Dragonite Extreme Speed, the list goes on. None of these mons are going to be too crazy to see in OU, and none of them lose much by running their priority moves. It's quite reasonable. But in LC, like, what are the strong priority options? You have Poniard Sucker Punch, which is prediction reliant, Mienfoo Fake Out, which is 1 turn only, not stab, and loses to protect, and Timber Mach Punch, which is genuinely really strong. I'd say Corphish Aqua Jet is great as well, and I just made a video on Corphish, which you can check out in the top right corner now. But other than those, there just aren't that many good options. Grookey just got Grassy Glide back, but it's been nerfed and isn't always worth using over Drain Punch or Knockoff or Woodhammer. There's also only 3 unaware mons, 2 of which have 210 base stat total, and are not particularly great, and Fuecoco, who's a little bit better but often feels like dead weight on a lot of teams due to needing Terra to not get destroyed by common coverage. Again, OU has way better options with Clefable, Dondozo, Skeledirge, and Clodsire. The sweepers themselves feel really hard to stop. Vullaby, Shellder, and Numel would have to be the 3 I'd point my fingers at the most, as they feel like they can be slotted onto any team, and if given one turn or one correct prediction in the case of Vullaby, sweep entire teams with minimal preparation. It's certainly not as bad as Magby was in last generation. If you were there, you'd remember the pain. But it also feels like almost every game ends with a sweep or partial sweep by these mons. Now, in my opinion, none of these mons really merit the ban, except maybe Vullaby. I'd like a suspect test personally, but it is quite early on. There's 2 ways of looking at the current LittleCup landscape. If you love fast-paced games ended by a sweep, then it's a paradise. However, if you're more of a fan of slightly longer games, it's certainly not bad still. I love LittleCup, and although I certainly do think that having a few sweepers who are in most teams can be a bit of a problem, I personally don't have much of one with it. The problem, being too high of base power moves and setup moves being too strong, are balanced out by being the same for the whole tier. After all, if you say, oh, well it's unfair if Steve gets an AK-47 and I only get my fists, but if you both get AKs, then it's fair. With that being said, there's not that many good mons and a ton of dead weight mons that are never used seriously. I'm looking at you, most bug types. But it's just a small metagame. I personally adore the fast-paced meta and how unique it is. And if you like LittleCup, well, there's this cool LittleCup channel making content every Saturday, hopefully, that you should subscribe to. Drop a like if you like this video, tell me what you think about the current LC metagame. This is a bit of a different video, so tell me what you think about it, and just have a good day.